Before we begin, the name of the show is Turn This Off. Frankly, we thought it would be good for marketing and at the same time make us sound kind of cool. Now, having said that, if you're part of the 5% of people wanting the same drab, boring, sleep-inducing content, by all means, yes, turn it off. This is Turn This Off. We're all about the journey, the struggles, and the triumphs. If it's great people doing great things, we're talking to them. It's your ticket to discovering the untold stories, the hidden gems, and the voices that deserve to be heard. Turn off the mundane and turn on the extraordinary. Turn this off. And now your host, Jordan Pauly.
What's up? Here we are, episode 3.
What's up, man?
Got with me Nick, dude. Nice to have you on.
Thanks for having me, dude.
Yeah, for sure. We were having good conversation before, so I thought I'd just start rolling and see what we can capture here. Oh, well, where to start? So I've started some of these in the past with how we met. And then I realized, I don't really know. I had to ask Megan how we met. So our wives are friends.
Mm-hmm.
And the first time I ran into you, I think, was walking out of Kroger. And then I didn't see you 7 years later until maybe last year.
About that. Yeah. I remember that too.
Which part? Kroger?
Kroger. Outside. I just started dating Peta, and you were walking in, and he's like, "Megan!" And of course, we're in Fort Mitchell. My wife knows everybody in that area, so
it's Northern Kentucky. Everybody knows everybody.
They're like, "Oh, this is my best friend. We're moving to Texas." Like, oh, right. This is a sad run-in.
Yeah, that was the first time. And then 7 years later, I run into you again, or we have a meetup for coffee.
Yep.
And I think this is maybe and then our children go to the same daycare.
Yep.
So we run into each other there.
Shout out Little Lynx.
Yeah. At Little Lynx. I don't even know what it is.
Yeah.
But I feel like this is probably only the third time that we've actually had a sit down. Or actually the second time. The first time was just a run-in.
It's flowing, though.
It feels natural.
It's good.
It feels good.
It's good.
So I don't know how it's going to come off, but it feels good. So I wanted to have you on, number one, because I wanted to get to know you better. Oh, hold on. The side joke to all this. So I've had some other people on. Megan's really trying to push. I don't know if you've listened to some of those. She's trying to get me man friends.
Oh, yes. All right.
So I almost thought of changing I'm like, do I need to change the title in the branding of the podcast to something to do with
Playdate?
Yep. So she said the same thing. She said Playdate. She said Playdates with Jordan or something like that. I'm like, that sounds a bit risque, but yeah, I just don't know if I could go through the rebrand.
Oh,
even though it's
you got this equity, Bill. You're
so much equity. You don't understand.
I don't know, man.
I think it's just a sign more than anything. It's like I don't have to.
We can get into it, but you're doing good.
Yeah.
You must have taken. Did you take art?
I didn't. No.
In high school? No. Nothing.
I wanted to take art, but that was after high school. High school, I think I just wanted to get out of high school. And then college, I just wanted to get out of college. And then after college, I was like, man, I wish I would have taken art, been in it, or done engineering, or like something a little bit more hands-on and applied.
Right.
Instead, I got a broad communication degree, and I was like, get me out of here with this degree, and I'll go figure it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's working out for you.
Yeah, so my dad did that sign I was telling you before, CNC machine. And I just painted it and threw it up there, put some light. Anything, LED lights go with anything. They make anything really, pop. I'm sure as a graphic designer, you love the word pop, which I want to talk about later because I was like, what are some trigger things you could really set Nick off here?
Oh, yeah.
And I know from being on like the account side of things, that word. But anyway, so let's center on. So you are the chief creative graphic designer. I'll just say chief executive, I'll call it, of Dewhaus. But why don't you tell me, because I know you and your wife co-partner on an agency, a graphic design agency.
Yep.
Why don't you tell me exactly in the audience, because I think you'll do it more justice.
So I'm the chief creative and founder, but that sounds like a lot, but it's me and my wife and 4 others, and so it's not like a corporate environment, so that title sounds a little ridiculous, but Yeah. So yeah, I was the chief creative officer for another business before we split off 3 years ago and started our own thing. So I was chief creative officer there, creative director. And then, when Peta and I decided that we wanted to do our own thing, that title followed, but it doesn't come with any pay raise or it's like, I don't know. There's titles for me. Yeah. They don't mean anything. So.
Nor do they me. I mean, not a thing.
Yeah. It's kind of weird.
Just pay me.
Practice.
Right.
Yeah.
You call me the janitor. You just pay me. I don't really care.
Yeah. It's archaic. I don't understand. So yeah, there's no real, magician, I don't know, creative, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Yeah. You call it what
I will say from having worked on the agency side, the B2B side for a little bit, and I was more an account manager. So I would say there's some equity in like creative director when you think about agency. Mm-hmm. So it does, while to you and I, it doesn't mean a whole lot as a title.
For sure.
I think for others and everybody's creative, right? So right. I hate that argument as well. It's like, oh, well, you're so creative. It's like, well, everybody can be creative. It's just how you decide to be creative.
Right.
So, but for those people who don't think they're creative, I think the title, creative director, holds equity.
Yeah, it does. That's a unique one. I think that is where you split off a little bit into more of like a creative manager, get a little bit less away from the work physically. Not always, because you still have to you still have to get on the Bobcat, as I say. But yeah, you still got to do some stuff, and but really, like it's its own job to be able to lead creatives and to inspire people to stay creative and to manage the project and the expectation of the client. That was a whole other thing I had to learn on the job. So that's a tough thing for any designer, I think, in some ways. And some people never actually want to lead, and that's fine. They're not suited or weren't built that way. But I think at some point in your career, you have to decide, are you in the creative field? Are you going to be the one, doing the creative? Are you going to be the one leading the creative, making sure that the vision is met, the expectations, and you need both. You can't have this isn't it's not a lone wolf, thing here. You have to have talent around you. And the more talent you have and the higher the talent, the better the product is. So, I'm always looking to, who's awesome. What do they do awesome? How can we collaborate? So, I think that's really important. I think, the mindset around a lot of this for people in the field or even outside the field is that, you look at creatives, whether they're musicians or whether they're artists, and you hear one name, and so often it's the people behind that name that are not getting credit. That I mean, I could run you down the list of people, artists right now that are very popular that have entire staffs that are just executing on their art, and it's kind of a bummer. But as long as those people are treated well and that they get some kind of
the people that live in the shadows to make it all work.
Yeah, totally.
Right? Like even when you think about in anything, but you think about a podcast. We were talking about Theo Von before.
Yeah.
Like, yes, he's the talking head. He's got a great personality. I think he's hilarious. He has very good conversations. So look at the team of people behind him.
Oh, yeah.
Or just anything, right? Be it film, music, art. There is a whole team of people behind just living in the shadows, and it just has to be okay with it, I guess.
They behind the curtain?
Yeah.
Is that for you?
Yeah.
No, yeah.
I'm that guy. I'm the jack of all trades.
You're killing it.
Yeah. I don't know, man. Okay. So I have a lot of questions for you around the agency side, but you asked me before we were talking a little bit about school and education, right? What I wanted to do. Did you always want to do, graphic design? Did you know, at what point did you know, were you artistic as a kid? Like, when did you know that you wanted to, follow that path?
Yeah. I mean, every kid is like artistic to some degree. I think I just had the encouragement. That definitely was. So I was my mom put the crayons in my hand. So she was an artist or is an artist herself. She's not as active now, but I grew up, she painted murals in our bedrooms, put the crayons in, and my dad put the football and shovel in my hand. So we have two kind of worlds. So when I realized that I had like a 20-inch vertical leap and ran a 4.940.
Did you really?
Yeah, slow. Slot receiver. Possession.
I mean, that's
yeah. No. So, I wanted to play pro sports. And I was encouraged in both, like I was like, I love sports. I love playing sports, but I always loved art, always. And until high school, my brother, who is 7 years older than me, he got into design before I did. So he's also an artist, very artistic, musician, entrepreneurial guy. He showed me that it was a career, and design. A lot of people. I think this is rare, but in high school, I was like, yeah, I definitely want to own my own design business. And what that looks like, I had no idea. But 3 years ago was a dream kind of fulfilled. And there's a lot that goes into that. It's not just about the art and the design. There was a side of us, like growing up, my dad's a landscaper, and he has always worked for other people as kind of like a landscaper, and he works his ass off. He is the hardest working dude I've ever met in my life. And so he taught us the value of hard work, and I always was just like, Dad, why don't you start your own business, Dad? Like, Dad, you got to do this. And like, so I think that drove a lot of, something in me that was like, yeah, I definitely want to own. At some point, I want to be the one. I don't know if it's a lack of, I have a problem with authority or like something like that.
Oh, I do. Yeah.
I mean, definitely. I think it's like, it's hard to, you always see things as like, they could be better. They could be run better. They could be, and some of that is just like, you're maybe not better, but your way of better. I don't think it's always like you're right every time, obviously. But you just see things that are broken. You want to fix it, and you're like, I'm tired of dealing with it this way.
Oh,
like,
but that's not the company priority right now, Nick. So we're just gonna have to put that one in. In 2025, and you sit here and do this thing.
Yeah,
I having a problem with that as well.
Yeah, dude, I get it, man. It's tough out there, but there are people who are great at following. That are built for that. And that's no knock on. Not everybody should be leading, and not everybody should feel like they have to. But yeah, for people who are in those positions, I feel for them. It's like, yeah, you're just like, when's this gonna happen? When's this gonna happen? And then you just make it happen. And I think kind of hopefully set yourself up, set your kind of conditions around yourself to be successful if you ever choose to go out on your own or do your own thing. And jump ship, as they say. I think the corporate ship. Yeah, that's I would encourage anybody though that is, pursuing something like that to go for it anytime. Yeah. We can get into that.
Yeah. Thanks for thanks.
Yeah.
I hear you.
Yeah. Good. Yeah. Go for it. You're doing it. Yeah.
But I resonate a lot with what you say around. Again, I agree. Things I don't necessarily couldn't be done better, but it's where do I want to spend my time? It's like time is a very valuable commodity. So it's not that I won't do this thing over here and do it at my best and do the best I can at it, whatever that is. But is that the thing I want to be focusing on?
Right.
So when you really center yourself, if you strip all of it away, it's like, what do you want to be doing? And you have that sobering moment. You're like, this isn't it. It's still right. A good thing. And then when you have kids, it muddies the waters because then it becomes about money, and then it becomes about affording things and this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
But I think that's where I'm at in my life right now. Is like, if I stripped it all away and I didn't have kids, I didn't have a wife, it's like, what would I want to be doing?
Right.
That's this type of stuff is what I want. I just want to create stuff or have these conversations and build relationships.
Yeah.
And I think that came with some maturity. That came with a ton of failure and like trying to pursue things that I thought I wanted to do. So this is me trying to figure it out. I'm still trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
But the scary part is, Meg and I were talking about this last night. I don't think I'll ever have it figured out, and that scares the shit out of me.
I don't know. That's kind of a cool place to live in. That's cool tension.
Yeah.
I mean, it's probably a lot of anxiety, but it's a cool thing to not feel like you have settled into anything. Because I think there's like comfort, I don't feel like is the answer.
Mm-hmm.
You know, maybe never feeling like that could be like the driver to always pursuing something new and different, which is really cool. Not a lot of people are like that. I mean, a lot of people are satisfied with, you know, the 9 to 5, and that's fine. That's, again, I'm not knocking that. I think there are too many people that are stuck in those spots that have chosen that safety and comfort, and we're missing you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's my message to anybody that is like, we need you. Like, we need people to be more entrepreneurial and to be moving in the direction towards their goals and their callings. Because if not, we're losing you, or we're missing something in our community, or there are things that should be built here, especially in our region, that aren't being built because people are sitting on the sidelines, so to speak. And I think that's something I see every day. I wish I have so many of my buddies, so many friends, so many people I talk to in the same position. And I don't know. People, I think, seek that kind of, I don't know what I would call it. I would call it comfort, but really that's more like safety.
Mm-hmm.
It's a safety thing. And I totally get it. If you have kids and you're dealing with that, that's a lot that you have to deal with. I know that.
Do you think it's such an interesting point. Do you think it's this area, the region that we live in, and kind of, for those listening, like the Midwest, we're in like the northern Kentucky, greater Cincinnati area. And I ask you about that regionally because when we moved away and we went to Dallas and then we went to California and then we were in Austin, everybody had a side hustle. Like everybody was trying to be a mover and a shaker.
Yeah.
And
that's
still,
annoying.
And still, yeah.
I don't like that either.
It was a lot. But I think about, and even we've settled back into it, moving back here again to the creature comforts of just, it's a great place to raise a family.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get comfortable. But I felt a lot of tension in California because everybody was doing something.
Right.
But it was also a good gut check of like, well, I should be doing something. Like, I'm capable of doing something too.
For sure.
So then, I started a CBD company.
Oh yeah? I didn't know that.
Yeah. Well, let's just be clear what Jordan did. He white labeled.
You were just selling weed. I got it.
Sorry,
Mom.
Yeah, my bad. Legal weed. Crazy stories out there. Like it's legal there, right?
Yeah. It blows. Like the first time you see it, like being from the Midwest.
Billboards everywhere. You drive and I remember the first time going there and I seeing a billboard and it said weed maps.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a DoorDash for a distribution, like a dispensary.
Right.
And so I'm like, part of me is just curious. I didn't did I do it? Yes. Right. Like I went through this experience. Part of it was from a user experience standpoint. I was like, what is this like to just
sure.
But honestly, part of me is like, what is this?
This is research.
I'm in Silicon Valley. I'm in like the tech capital of the world. You've got this thing being built here, whatever. I'm just going to try it. So there's, an app, Weed Maps. You get on it, literally like DoorDash. Like the user experience was, there's different dispensaries. You click on them, choose different things. I'm like, this seems wrong.
Yeah.
Coming from the Midwest where it's like, no. It's like, this seems wrong and way too easy. So let's see how easy this really is. They ask you to upload your, a picture of your license. And then that's it. And then you pick what you want and it comes to the door and they give you a patient number. Like I got a patient number.
Oh, was this the era of you needed the doctor's note?
There's no doctor's note.
Okay, so you get a patient number.
I don't know the logistics of it, probably something legally, but you get a patient number. And then not an hour later, somebody knocked at the door and like in a white paper bag with a receipt stapled to it. And you're just like,
God bless America.
What is going on here? That's crazy. I don't know why I went there.
Well, your CBD business.
Yeah. So that's when I picked up that was, again, seeing people that were doing the 9 to 5 grind and also doing other things was interesting. So then I just also tried this thing. It didn't work out, but again, part of the fun for me is like trying and building the thing.
Right.
So back to my original question, do you think it's a regional thing? Do you see that existing?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think culturally, yeah, it definitely is a regional thing. It's kind of like if you ever go to Chicago or like would be like Runyon Canyon, and like you said, like everybody's working out and running, and you're just like, you're walking and you're like, these people are fit. And you're like, I need to go for a run. Like, I imagine that there's some of that like energy where it's like FOMO of like, yeah. So fortunately there is a community of people here, I think, who are doing some awesome stuff all over the place. It's just, I think it's like the momentum is picking up. I feel like there are people, whether it's the pandemic did it or whether it's like the age of people who might be moving back like yourselves. I think there's a lot of talent, but you're right. Like some of it is dormant because of the industries here. I think a lot of it is driven by, what industries make up our community. And that's true anywhere. Like, who are the big employers, and what do they offer, and what is their culture? So I think that drives it a little bit. But yeah, I mean also too, yeah, like we might be getting deep here.
No, let's go.
So this is my theory, but I mean think about, like, I mentioned my dad's a landscaper. I know generationally, like the last generation, carpenters, plumbers, like trades. And then before that, manufacturing, and what existed here for hundreds of years before, and how that affects and shapes us as people. I think it can't be overstated, because I think that now, though, it's different. I think there has been a switch. I do think our region, and we're in Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky. I do think we are a creative powerhouse. I think we have the universities. I think we have the businesses. I think we have the arts. I think it's this underlying thing that we've always had: the art museums, Rookwood pottery. You name it. We've had everything, and there's just something. We've always had the arts in the business, and so I think we're unique that way. I think we're kind of this, like, not to use an overplayed thing, but we are kind of a cultural gem a little bit in the Midwest here. So more of that energy being like brought out is awesome. But yeah, totally with, like, yeah, generations before us and how that shapes, what you think is possible. I'm sure a lot of kids are discouraged from the arts, just based on, like, are you, especially men, like, are you a man? You should do this. And you don't get to follow that, which is really sad. And I think there's a lot of kids that get discouraged from that because of that, whatever you want to call it, a stereotype that's ridiculous, or, you should be able to pursue what you want to do creatively, and be encouraged, for sure.
Well, and as somebody who doesn't, do an art every day, whether we think about it's drawing, it's painting, it's graphic design, or whatever, I'd currently do the thing that, like, the manly thing of going into the 9 to 5 and doing the thing. But what's interesting about that is I wish I was on the other side, right? Like, so I wonder how many people in your the comment you just made are doing that thing, but really look over at somebody who's painting a mural on a wall in downtown Cincinnati and, like, man, that is so cool. Like, dude's out there on scaffolding, just listening to music and doing his thing. So I think that's a very interesting idea.
Yeah, and there's lots of creative space. This is a creative space. So your endeavor is creative. I told you this before, but I think everybody can bring a creativity to their job or work or whatever it is, and they should be encouraged to be creative in those spaces. And everybody has that creative tendency, because that's how we were made. We were designed to be creative in my opinion, a creator. So I think I think that's in all of us. And I think it's just how you express it. There's not everybody needs to be a painter. Not everybody needs to be a musician. But there's some level of creativity in everything that we do. And I think if you bury that, that's really a bummer. Mm-hmm. And, life is just more vibrant that way. Like if you take that approach with everything. So anyways,
I'm just sitting here thinking as you're talking, I'm like, man, we need to hang out more.
No, I'm like, you can tell I'm like earnest about this stuff. I love.
I think it's a good conversation.
Yeah.
You had mentioned before, kind of where we are in the region, the brands to work with. So then I'm going to ask you about some of the brands you've worked with.
Cool.
Because your list of brands you work with is incredible when we think about, and there's probably so many more, but there's Adidas, there's Procter & Gamble. There were a couple other big names, and you can tell me, how do you work with, like, how do you get to work with an Adidas? How do you get, your work shown across Barstools or Wall Street Journal? And because that has to be pretty cool.
Yeah.
And I say that because as you're trying to craft something as a form of expression, in my opinion, one of the greatest things is seeing that thing in the wild.
Right.
So, I think about when I worked at Toyota, and on the marketing side, I'm being a little selfish here in this story, but it was probably the greatest job that I had was at Toyota on the marketing side, B2C marketing. And it was, you get to go market this vehicle. And whether you like vehicles or not, whether you're a gearhead or not, which I don't think I'm a gearhead. I'm into brands, and I appreciate the Toyota as a brand. Mm-hmm. But getting to do the market research and work with the agency and build the ethos of this brand and thing, and then launch it out into the world and see a commercial that you were on set for on TV, pretty wild, pretty amazing feeling.
Yeah.
So as you
That's incredible.
And
that's awesome.
I'm not trying to make this about me. I'm trying to use it as a jumping point to say, as someone who creates every day and works with big brands, and then see those show up in some pretty big publications.
Yeah.
Number one, we'll just start with how have you forged some of these relationships with some of these big brands? We'll start there because there's a series of questions for this.
Yeah. So there's not an easy answer for that. I think way leads on to way. I think it all starts with relationships. You forge a relationship with somebody. You prove that you're not a dick. You're creative. You work hard, and it's kind of like dating. I always equate it to dating. Like, be nice, be yourself, and wear a nice shirt and or whatever. Just be yourself and be nice and like work hard, and that gets you so far. I mean, really, like, it's not complex. Mm-hmm. Like, but I realize, but you got to get a foot in the door. And yeah, I've been pretty fortunate. Like, I think, through contacts and through people referring, referrals are a powerful thing. Like, we are a design company, haven't launched our brand yet, like haven't launched our website. We do websites. So for us, and that's going to change here shortly, but yeah, for us, it's like, we rely on that stuff. So we rely on the relationships, and you got to foster that stuff and keep following up, check in. And a lot of them become friends, and it's more natural, and it's not like a weird networking thing, because I hate networking. I mean, I hate it, and I love it at the same time. It's like, I just had this like negative outlook on, like, a perception of it, that I was like, oh, this is all fake. Nobody wants, this is all about getting something, like blah, blah, blah. But I learned that I love a lot of these people. Like, I mean, they're just people, and they're just like you and me, and they're cool, and they got interests, and like, you might share an interest. And that honestly is probably the coolest thing, is when you share a mutual interest and that leads to a project. Like, and they can tell that you're the right person because you've got a background, or you've got some story, or you're, like, for example, like sports. For me, I grew up playing sports, Love sports. Always loved uniforms. That was like how I got into it. Like I was like, dude, that uniform. I didn't know that was a job.
Oregon?
Yeah. Oh, crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy. I mean, tons of money behind it.
Mhm.
So
Nike.
that,
right?
yeah, I feel nice. So not a normal thing, but it's awesome that they get to experiment like that. I would love, I mean, and just like didn't know that that was an actual career. And I think, you know, that is a career, somebody's job.
Mhm.
Everything is designed. If you like something that you're like, that's cool, that would be cool to do. That's somebody's job. Like, it's like, not just sports and not just brand. Like think of like subway maps and like, you know, systems.
Mhm.
Like everything that we look at is designed by somebody. So
Right.
it's
the
really
expression of that design that's
right.
different.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, I probably went off on a tangent.
No,
but,
you're fine.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, relationships basically.
Well, it's funny you said that. I'm the same way about the whole networking thing. It's exhausting, at least in my opinion.
Yeah.
And part of it is the game of everybody's here doing the same thing. How many people are really being genuine versus just
Right.
we're all here just puffing our chests out.
Totally.
I do find in situations where, and it's the anticipation of networking for me. So I know even if it's going out or meeting new people, I'll consider that networking, even if it's not for, you know, for work related. But I'll find myself dreading it. When I'm in it, I'm feeling a little bit better. When I'm out of it, on the other side of it, I'm so thankful I did it.
Yeah.
But it's like the getting off the couch piece.
Yeah.
That's really hard. But once you're in it or you've done it, you're like, man, I'm actually glad that I did that. Look who I met. I had a great conversation. That was great.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I feel that. I mean, I feel that about just going to birthday parties. It's like, oh no, I got to go to this thing. But then you go and it's people. I mean, I love people. I think that's like, maybe you're the same that way. Like it's, you know, I love learning about them.
Mhm.
I think people are the coolest thing on earth. And like, I just love them. Like everybody has something interesting and backstory or like some interest that's really weird. And I just find it all to be like fascinating.
Mhm.
And that's what's cool about meeting new people is like, you know, and you can have people you've known for a long time like this too, that, you know, tell you something you didn't know. And that's always exciting. But I think, yeah, man, it's just people meeting people. And if you're cool with that, and some
Mhm.
people aren't.
Right.
Like, so, but that's really cool. Yeah, no, it's cool to hear. It's actually encouraging. So thanks for sharing that. Cause I think it's like, yeah, it has a stigma to it. And I don't know if it's necessarily always valid.
Mhm.
If you really like care about people, because you're just, you know, helping each other out really.
Right. I think one of the ideas of why I wanted to do this was to be a forcing function to meet people. But
Mm-hmm.
I was going to tell you this before, and I was like, oh no, I'll save it. I don't know what I read last year, but I guess the people who served in World War II were getting to a point where all of the veterans from World War II are passing away, right?
Mhm.
There will come a time in the next 10 years or less where I believe, don't quote me on that, but it's something urgent, right? Where all these people will have passed away that served in World War II. And I think about those stories and to your point, everyone has a story. So when I think about, I just had this sobering moment. I was thinking about, I'm like, oh my gosh, there's a sense of urgency for me here. And I would love to have somebody, I'd love to be able to speak with somebody that served in World War II, because there's going to come a time when, yes, we have the History Channel and documentaries and things, but was that person's story told?
Right.
Did they get to have a voice? Do they want to talk about it? Maybe not. But I found it so interesting. And again, it literally created this urgency. Like, I need to talk to people. I need to hear these stories, all from that idea of their story may never be heard.
Yeah.
Or maybe heard within their inner circle and their family.
Mm-hmm.
But again, it just drove this urgency for me. And then I really started thinking about it. I'm like, oh man, this is such an interesting idea, whether it takes off or not, or people listen or not, because at some point I will die,
Mm-hmm.
right?
That is interesting.
My kids,
Yeah.
the internet will live on. My kids will
Wow.
get to see their dad at 37. Your kids will get to see you
Wow.
at 37. They'll be like, who is this random person my dad's talking to? And when you think about it like that,
Yeah.
I'm like, that is really cool to be able to archive this moment
Oh yeah.
for
It's wild.
my children or something. I mean, this is going to live unless the internet breaks tomorrow.
Yeah.
Which I don't think it's going anywhere. So that really fascinated me.
That is.
And having these conversations, I'm like, oh, not only is this informational, but this can be a gift. Like it could be a gift to somebody like your kids later on in life to where they're like, yeah, that's my grandpa.
Yep.
He's on this goofy podcast. What's a podcast? They're not even a thing anymore. I don't know. That's
these headphones.
Right. Exactly.
That's really awesome. Two things. First thing is I feel that about my family. I almost want to do this, lend me out the equipment. Mm-hmm. Like my grandpa is a beast, and he, has kind of, my uncle, he was born when my grandpa was 16, and he was I wouldn't say orphaned out, but he, didn't have parents and kind of made his own way. And he's got this great story about how he like went back to school, got his engineering degree, and then like all this stuff, and like kind of like is this legacy person in our family and has done so much and got to get it on. It's like that urgency, like you're talking about, like, not that if you're listening, yeah, you got a while. Yeah, we've got years, but but I hear you. Like, and I think that's a really cool thing. Even like, I'm curious, like, family members, do you feel like in that way too? Like, do you know, like all the stories, and this format, I think, just allows for you to have control and be like, remember when I was grounded? And
no, I thought about, so the first episode that I posted, my Aunt Judy actually reached out to me, and it's not going to work out because of timing, but she's like, oh, you should talk to your dad. And I'm like,
yeah,
why wouldn't I think to talk to my dad? Right. Yeah. And it's I guess it's a bit selfish, or I'm like, oh, I know my dad. What more do I need to know about my dad? But my aunt reminded me, she's like, oh, well, your dad's mom, this is going to get a little complicated because the family tree, it's like your dad's mom's dad. So I guess that'd be my great-grandpa, great-great-grandpa. Somebody along the lines in our family used to be a horse jockey. Horse jockey, they race horses, they race them in the Derby.
Really?
Yes. So she brought this up to me because she was like, oh, you should have your dad on. He can talk to you about your grandma. My grandma's her nickname was Boots, because she would always take, her dad was a horse jockey, and her brother, I believe, was also a horse jockey. But after the races, she would always go over to the horses afterwards, and she'd help pull off their boots. So she got the nickname Boots.
Unreal.
And I'm like,
best nickname.
Yeah.
Best for a grandma?
Yeah, Boots.
Kid me?
Yeah. So there's in Kentucky.
She needs a plaque at Keeneland.
Well, so there's what's to go along with the Boots. She had this, and I'm going to derail here.
This is great. This should be all about boots.
Yes.
Personally.
Well, there's a drink named after her.
Oh, really?
Yes. Within our family, it's called the Boots. So I remember growing up, I'd go over to her house. We'd go for Christmas or whatever. And she always had, it was the worst bourbon. I wouldn't even call it bourbon, right? But it was
very almost clear.
Kentucky Tavern.
Oh, yeah.
Or Kentucky Gentleman, right? Which in our snobbish days now, it's like, oh, but whatever. Like, who cares? They'd have a fifth of it. It was probably $12 or something.
Put some Ale-8 in it.
Yeah, it'll be fine.
It's fine.
But she'd take this, and so she'd have this, and Kentucky Tavern, and she'd mix Sprite in with it.
Yeah.
And we'd call that a highball nowadays, I guess, or something.
Yeah.
Or a mixer. We just call it a mixer. But she'd put olives in it, green olives.
Disgusting.
Not disgusting. So Kentucky Tavern, Sprite, and green olives. And we'd call it the Boots. And the most amazing thing was she'd always let me sneak the olives. So she'd have a drink, it'd be sitting over there on the end table. There'd be like melted ice in it, and there'd be some olives left in the bottom.
How old were you?
Oh, I don't know, 7, 8, 9.
You'd like the olives?
Oh, I love the olives. So I'm obsessed with green olives. And part of that impetus is from those, olives that she would give me.
Right.
So she'd always let me sneak the olives. Well, when you eat the olives, they would soak up the bourbon. So you're eating that olive, and it's the salty and a little bit sweet from the bourbon, and then the burn from the cheap bourbon as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, we have those. I mean, I drink them to this day.
Really?
We have them at Christmas. They're called the Boots. I got some people when we moved to Dallas turned on to it who also started calling it the Boots. We got a bartender at a local bar who would know us from that drink and started calling it the Boots. He's like, oh, I'm going to put it on the menu. I don't know if he ever did or not.
Yeah. It's a great drink name.
Yeah, I know, it's great.
Legacy.
Really, very, very much so.
That's awesome.
So back to, I guess, bringing that full circle. Yeah, I should have you asked me about family, and I do feel that sense of urgency. But then when I actually go to action on it, it's like I find myself, I don't want to say too busy because that sounds terrible, but with kids and balancing life.
Oh yeah.
But I thought about it. I'm like, I'm gonna have my dad on.
Yeah, that's a good idea, dude.
Yeah, I agree.
This is like, it's funny that you use your creative, energy to do something like that. I've always wanted to take my family through the branding process, which is, I know sounds insane, but like the process is really kind of scientific process where it's like research. You have all your findings, you set up the problem, you define the problem for people, and then you execute a plan to solve that problem, and then you actually execute it. So it's cool. It would be cool to experience that process with like asking questions, probing things that you don't know about that, we think we take for granted.
Mm-hmm.
It's so funny how we take our closest relationships for granted that way. Every time you meet a new person, the world is open, but your closest brothers, sisters, moms, dads, grandpas, there's so much there you don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, seriously, especially parents. Because what I'm thinking about this with my kids, like I'm like, and what would they ask me? Like, when will that happen? Like, I can't imagine unless, there are moments like I've had moments with my dad and stuff where camping or hiking or, spaces where we've had that opportunity, but it's few and far between.
Mm-hmm.
Not enough for what like the depth of the relationship.
Mm-hmm.
So that's cool, man. I'd encourage you to definitely do that.
I need to. And I just spoke with him and my mom last week. I was out there at the house. My dad was like, I don't know how this came up, or maybe my mom, somebody listened to an old voicemail of my grandpa, and they had like saved that voicemail on their phone because that's the kind of the last time they got to hear their voice.
Yep.
And I think about that.
Mm-hmm.
And like, because that's the technology that was around, right?
Yep.
There were no iPhones at the time. Maybe there was the VHS over the shoulder camera where you could record somebody, but there's a lot of friction there in that whole experience and rewatching it or just getting the sound of it. So I do think about the news sources of media. I have a phone. I have a phone with a very nice camera on it, right?
Yeah.
There's no reason that I can't be capturing more moments or having those conversations. Forget what I was going with this. So my dad was like, you should think about, I think he was trying to tell me to do it, but he was going about it in a very nice way. I don't know if he received a letter from somebody or somebody's, this might've been another story where it's like, oh yeah, so-and-so had a letter written to their grandparents and the grandparents got to read it. I think the whole thing is just the point of what I'm saying is letting the person know how you feel.
Yeah.
And then I think about the written word, and I think that would be wonderful. I also think about this forum in which we're doing right now, and I was like, this would be even more wonderful. Mm-hmm. Might seem like to an older generation the lazy way out, not handwriting something or typing something. But to be able to look at, again, 20, 30 years from now when my mom and dad pass away, to be able to have video of just having conversation.
Yeah.
I also thought I took it a step further.
Sound of their voice is probably pretty powerful.
I agree.
I've heard that, or I've seen things where it's like somebody had recorded something and they didn't, I mean, it's, if I watch probably a Toyota commercial where
yeah.
I think it was like somebody put in a CD that was recorded before he died. It was tearing up, just like,
aren't they good at that? It's like
the Dumb and Dumber scene where they're crying at the commercial in the hotel room.
Oh, I guarantee if it was Toyota, it was probably during the holidays too. It was probably a Christmas commercial.
Yeah. So voices would be a cool thing to have captured for sure. Somebody's laugh.
Yeah.
That would be,
gotta
have that. I just need laughs on my,
that's
the best stuff.
3 weeks ago, I had Cohen down here because I was testing out the equipment. And I put him in front of the microphone. I started asking him questions about soccer. And I'm like, this is going to be great. I'm just capturing moments right here, having a conversation with dad. Maybe he'll look at it when he's 16 or 20 or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
And, he'll be sitting across from I'll be even grayer than I am now. And he'll be, a kid with missing teeth, no shirt on, whatever, just talking to him about soccer. The bummer was, and I have to go back and do it, he wasn't close enough to the mic. So everything, like I had to really amp the audio.
Come
he's
on.
Like, he's like tucked down in the seat, the microphone's up here.
That's a production team's fault.
Yeah,
Not
this
his.
is a noob. I was working the kinks out. But
Don't
yeah.
blame him.
Yeah. You need to sit up taller,
Yeah.
son. Speaking of the mic, let your voice be heard.
You gonna try? Is he gonna help out soon or what?
I don't know.
Get him on the wires.
I really need to get him on this switch over here. My arm's going numb.
That's sweet. You're doing a great job
Yeah.
watching it.
Yeah, for those who are just listening, I am operating 3 cameras at the same time because I am not Theo Vaughn or Joe Rogan and do not have a production team. So
I'd be surprised. Maybe they are. I bet they're skeletons. No,
they're not pushing buttons. There's not a chance.
so what goes into that? It's awesome though. There it was. Great job.
Yeah, I'm just here on the fly switching.
Excellent.
It keeps me active.
Yeah, for sure.
So, largest client I want to go back to. I keep coming back to the design thing because it's very interesting to me. Or the agency that you own, founded, and operate.
Mm-hmm.
What brand did you work with, or did you secure? And I don't know if it was an RFP for people, request for proposal, whatever it was.
Yeah.
What was the biggest client you ever landed, and you were just like, "Holy shit, this is amazing."
When my previous job, I worked on some pretty big stuff. I didn't actually do the landing of sort of like, I go along, be like, now talk about the actual design process and tell them what you're going to do. Like that was more my role in that space. So things like Starbucks, we did some sustainability stuff for them. That was really cool. Getting their internal team to kind of buy into a, cup reduction. So, because it's insane, but it's like
their cups. You said
the amount of cups is basically like we need to reduce.
Oh, right.
This because it's a huge problem, and it is, and they know it, and they're like, yeah, but they're taking steps. I guess I don't know if they followed up, but the website looked good.
Nailed it.
There's been some surreal moments. Did like a shoe launch with KITH up in New York with Adidas for their Addy Boost. So designed out the whole store of KITH, which is like, if you don't know, is like one of the, it's a little bit, I wouldn't say outdated now, but it's kind of like, I'd say about 10 years ago was the hottest thing. There's lines around the block to get the shoes. Like it's crazy. Ronnie Feig is the guy's name. He's a beast. But anyways, so like stuff that people would know, that stuff in my field is like, it's cool, but it has its like limits, The corporate world is very conservative. Even if it's a cool company, honestly, like the best ideas get buried in those places.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah,
I'm thinking
you probably are aware.
Procter and Gamble.
Oh,
yeah. Just very safe.
Yeah.
Play it safe. No. Just
right.
Raise the guidelines. Read the brief. Deliver on the brief.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. There's very creative people that work there. And I think there are honestly some of the most creative people, but I do think the process and the way that they operate does not allow risk to be, and you need to have risk. Like to not have risk or to not, be willing to do something that doesn't have data backing it up. That is very harmful, I think, to innovation. Really. And they try to find ways to, I think, get around that, but it's very hard. Right. And I think like, I'm in it every day. Honestly, the best projects are when clients are like willing to take risk and willing to be brave and willing to do something courageous. I know that sounds like over the top for brands, but it is so true. Like the best projects are the ones where they give you the runway, and then in your gut, you can kind of see it. They're scared to death. They don't want to do it, but they just let you do it, and they believe in you, and you're kind of giving them confidence, and so you share this relationship that's pretty cool. And then inevitably, that risk pays off. I've very few times has it not. I can't even really remember a time when the biggest projects are the ones that you mentioned, kind of like, what the biggest project or what the best, honestly, the Florence Yalls,
Mm-hmm.
that project was awesome for so many reasons. But, like trying to convince somebody to do that and trying to lead them there and help them understand why that's going to be cool and tell them that it's named after a water tower at the same time and look them straight in the
Hold on.
face.
So that was you.
Yeah. So I was project lead on that, and
Because
worked
that
with other
changed while we were
designers.
gone. When we moved away, it was still the Florence Freedom.
Right. Yeah. So we took the freedom away. Took
Naturally.
her freedom.
Well, fun fact, just a little sidestep here. One summer I came back from college and I was a wireless camera guy for the Florence Freedom.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, so I used to run the wireless cam because I was still I was into production and doing some of that stuff. So I'd have a headset on and the producer would be telling me to go snag a certain shot. Oh, we're live on you, the whole thing. One time the mascot, it was the bird at the time. Remember that big?
Yeah.
So
The
there
chicken.
was what was it?
The chicken.
The chicken? But
It
it wasn't
just looked like a chicken.
It wasn't. Yeah, the chicken, some type of pink
Yeah.
bird, I believe it was. And I forget the guy's name. He was sick. The guy was always a mascot, big personality. Is totally somebody that would be under the suit of a mascot. He was sick.
Right.
It's like, we need somebody to be in this mascot. There's all these kids here, whatever. And I was running cam, but we had somebody else who could run the wireless cam. It's like, Jordan, would you want to do it?
Sweet.
Be the mascot, right? It's like, yeah, sure I will. I always have this false sense of confidence when I'm, you put on sunglasses and you just feel like these people can't tell, see your face.
Dude.
Halloween, you got your face covered up. You feel like you can be a little bit more.
Yeah.
And I feel like probably historically and like these masquerade balls and things where people wore masks and they felt like they could be something they weren't or get away with more than they could.
Yeah.
It's like,
For sure.
yeah, I will be this bird. To get in this suit is disgusting. It probably had never been washed or dry cleaned ever. It still has sweat on it from like the week before. But it was an amazing time. Like I was a complete goofball.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, it was great.
All inhibitions are dropped when you're the mascot.
100%.
You have to. It's almost like worse if you're more reserved.
Yeah.
You can't be.
Well, it's awkward for the kids. You're just standing there with your arms next to you.
Smoking a cig.
Right. just holding the mask. Yeah. Yeah.
That's scary.
But so to come back to you then, and the Florence Yalls, that was great. Because when we came back, I remember driving past it because my parents live out in Union out there, and it said Florence Yalls. I'm like, what is this? And then I'm like, holy crap. The water tower right across the street is the Florence Yalls, which has a huge, when you travel places, and you tell people that you live in Kentucky, and then they're like, oh, what part? And then you say Florence or Northern Kentucky. They're like, oh, the water tower.
Yeah, for sure.
It's insane, but it definitely is a thing.
It's like the Empire State Building. I mean, the top Empire State Building.
Yeah.
Brooklyn Bridge.
I couldn't tell if you're joking.
Florence Yalls water tower.
Right.
And probably that's jumbled. Yeah, they call it a local hydration monument. So that's great. We didn't come up with that. That was awesome. That was their team, and their team actually is awesome. So they've taken and run with it, and they've done excellent. So yeah, I mean that process and that whole thing, for me, you mentioned like problem solving and stuff. So a lot of times you're just like, you're the confidence for people. You're the idea, you're the creative. So you don't have a stake in it other than like your reputation, which is big, but it's not like, you don't have all that investment on the line. So the more you can kind of remove that from the equation in your mind and make clear decisions, I think for business owners and leaders, like I said, I think that courage is really a valuable trait for I'm sure that's why they got there too. That's why they're owners. That's why they took a risk at some point and they're willing to take another one. And I think any brand relaunch of that caliber where you're kind of changing a cultural institution is, it's a big thing and it affects a lot of people emotionally. And so, when it came out, man, you could really it was polar. I think that's another thing. Like, taking a risk is polarizing, and that's a good thing. People just don't. I wish people could understand, from my perspective, and see what being being safe and being vanilla, it will not capture anyone's attention. And a lot of times we think these big things that we're like going to do, whether it's like, I'm going to do this big thing. I'm not, to other people, they don't care.
Mhm.
They got other things to do. They got other things to worry about. Your thing is not the biggest thing. Like,
they're thinking of it through their own lens.
yeah, totally. And so you got to make a bigger thing than you realize to make that capture anyone's attention.
Mhm.
And I think just to be able to do that, and I think that's what was so cool about that one, because you think about, you mentioned the big brand stuff. Those are great projects, but being able to be that, and that's a lot of the feature stuff, like being able to be featured on Barstool as like one of the best names, and like being able to be featured on MLB and like all these different national, that it's like when it goes live, I'm telling you, it's like, what's this gonna like? I mean, I'm confident, but like there's no telling how something like that is received. You cannot guess it. It's the magic of it.
Mhm.
It's the magic of taking a risk. It's the magic of creative. It's the magic of it all. I love that part.
Mhm.
Like, your stomach is just like, oh, you're watching the comments come in like, these are great. Like, and that was the best part of that. Like watching it go social viral and like kind of seeing like all the people making stuff to whether they hated it or loved it.
Mhm.
And it was very tiered by like, if it was Facebook, it was a certain age,
Yeah.
hated it.
Traditional.
This isn't the Tigers. Like
Mhm.
this, they took our freedom, like I said. And then these people on Reddit and Instagram and TikTok were like, this is the best. This is the coolest thing. And I was more encouraged by that,
Mhm.
obviously. But so time will,
Yes.
as we've talked,
Well,
it marches on.
everybody's going to have their opinion, right?
Yeah, no,
Art or creative is subjective. Everybody's going to respond to it a different way.
totally.
If you do, if to your point before about the creative process, if you understand the research, your target audience, and what you're trying to capture, you're going for the majority there. You're not
Right.
going to appease everybody. So if
Mhm.
you've landed on through the research, like those key insights for the majority of your target population that you're going after,
Totally.
and you nail that, that's
Right.
a win.
Yeah,
Because
absolutely.
everybody else, like, again, that goes into,
Oh, yeah.
you and I could talk about this forever, but it's like the brief process,
Yep.
you had mentioned before too, and I think you nailed it. When people sometimes think about creative, and I catch myself doing this as somebody who wants to be creative, I'm automatically trying to solve the thing without the research. But to your point, you mentioned it earlier, the research when you're creating something is fundamental.
Mhm.
I would argue it's more important than the actual execution.
For sure.
The execution is just delivering on the work that you've already done.
Mhm.
I mean, and being a little selfish again, when we were at Toyota, we were working on this Corolla hatchback launch. And Corolla, what do you think of Corolla when you think about it?
Safe grandma car.
Correct. Yes, that was exactly it, right? So it was, think about the Corolla, you think it's very safe. So it was the Corolla hatchback. So you have to understand who your competition is. It was Honda Civic, the Honda Type R, right? And when you think
Mhm.
about the Honda Civic or Type R, what do you think?
High school ground effects.
Right. You think of like Fast and Furious.
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
still the same thing, but it
Speed.
looks better.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
the body kits and the neon lights and
Right.
stuff like that. So we're like, we have to make this. We got all that research through a year and a half of research, understanding who our competitors were, what our value props were, like the key attributes of the vehicle. And when you talk about taking risk, I remember being there and we're like, man, we need to make this vehicle seem fun to drive.
Mhm.
We need to make a Corolla hatchback with like 168 horsepower,
luck.
fun to drive. So when we were out and we shot commercials in New Orleans, and I remember we had storyboarded all this stuff with the agency, and we were gonna try and drift the vehicle.
Mhm.
Toyota,
Sweet.
right? So we had to go through legal. It was crazy the amount of, and again, back to your point of maybe brands that play it safe. It's like they want you to do that cool thing, but they're also apprehensive of it.
Oh, yeah.
But we did it, and it got mixed feedback, right? You had the very traditional, that's not Toyota. Toyota is all about safety and reliability. And then you had other
Yeah.
people who are like, well, did they just do that with a Corolla?
Right.
We took that same vehicle and we put it in a Formula Drift circuit,
Yeah.
which was, I think there's 12 races, but we gave it to a guy named Frederick Osbo. He's a world championship drift race driver. the guy who works and builds his vehicle, his name is Stefan Papadakis. He's the guy that they based Vin Diesel's character off of in Fast and Furious. So like this guy, bald-headed guy, like chiseled, looks like Vin Diesel. So he's the original OG, like underground. He was racing Hondas and doing street racing for the longest time. But we gave them a Corolla hatchback. We said, we want you to make this thing fast. And then they put it in the Formula Drift circuit and like trying to change brand perception.
Right.
I really don't know where I was going with this other than...
How much did you have to convince Toyota to buy into? Was that hard process to get them to agree to just drift it?
As you can imagine, on the creative side, like the agency we're working with, Saatchi and Saatchi, they were part of Publicis Group.
Yeah.
They were all for it. They're like, yes, please, we want to do this.
Right.
So, and I was the brand manager at Toyota at the time, so it's just like, I'm on board with this too. Let's do some crazy stuff. So there was some executive buy-in that we needed to get. Then you have to meet with legal because there's all kinds of disclaimers and things when you get really deep down into it. But they ended up taking a risk, and I would say just last year they did a commercial with the whole Toyota-sponsored Formula Drift team. So there's 3 drivers who race for Toyota. They did a regional commercial. Actually, it was a national commercial with the whole drift team. So they're in these regional, national spots. And you're just like, see, it paid off. Like, again, did it change the brand perception? I don't know. I didn't do the market research to understand the after effect.
It was cool.
But it was freaking cool.
Yeah.
It was cool.
Sometimes that's just all it is.
Yeah.
It's like,
that's right.
I did. Yeah, I know. I bet it was.
Yeah.
Pull it up. I want to see it.
Man, I need that. That's like step 2 is like having a screen up so we can review things like they do on Rogan. It's like,
dude, I mean, the car commercial though, that's kind of like that's hallowed turf for marketing and for branding. And it's just like, there's so few companies and there's so few, I guess, opportunities to even be a part of something that big. I mean, such a massive product.
I didn't realize at the time what it was until now in my life. I didn't realize how unique of an opportunity it was, how cool it was, the process.
Yep.
You're going to car shows, you're doing partnership things. I mean, the money's crazy what they throw at these car launches. Yeah. So the good news is that Corolla hatchback was a brand new vehicle style in the segment. So there was a Corolla sedan, which everybody knows, and they introduced a hatchback. So they were going big on this thing year one, and they had money to throw at it. And the stuff that we did, we went to when they did the car show launches are crazy. And wherever they are. I believe we were in New York at the Javits Center. I think that's in New York. Where's the Iron Building? The
Flatiron.
Flatiron. That's in New York, right?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So we did this. I don't remember. We did this PR stunt where we worked with an agency, but the Corolla hatch, we had a hatch out of an egg in New York. So what we did was
absurd.
I forget where this giant egg was built in California by another, right? We got pitches by an agency. Yeah. Again, you're sitting in this room.
Love it.
The agency's pitching this idea to you for like PR stunts.
Hey, what a job.
And you're like, that one. It's like a bunch of crazy ideas. And you're like, we want that one.
We're very fortunate.
So California, they built this giant egg. Then they actually didn't put the vehicle in the egg. It was the same size, but I think for legal and safety reasons, they couldn't cart it across the country. But they had this giant egg, and you can watch a video of it on YouTube, go on a flatbed truck across the country from California to New York. Had QR codes on it.
I was going to say.
Had all
it's all about it, right?
On it. Yeah. Yes. Then it gets in, and like there's all these things going on social media. Follow the egg, They had a live camera on the back of the flatbed truck, so you could follow it in real time live where it was going.
It's great.
And then we launched it in New York. So it's like 2 a.m. the night before the reveal show. The RAV4 was launching at the same time, and the RAV4 is like the bread and butter right now of, or at least it was, of Toyota. So we didn't want to take that moment away from RAV. Not that we would have anyway. I mean, they're going to sell 300,000 vehicles. We're going to sell like 30,000.
Right. So
the night before, at like 2 a.m, we're all out there, and we just crack open this egg and have it ready to go the next morning. And the vehicle is brought in and set up in between a cracked egg.
Sweet.
Right by the Flatiron right there.
Outside? Oh, nice. Yeah. Was this all Toyota vehicles?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For
sweet.
that, well, Toyota was at the show. There were a bunch of other OEMs as well. But
Yeah.
so when I think about
Dude,
the
that's
culmination of all that, I'm like, man, that's freaking sweet.
Mm-hmm.
So much fun.
Yeah, like, talk about like just being blessed to do this for a living. I mean, anything where you're talking about a giant egg. What are we talking about? Like,
Right.
I mean, we're very lucky. Anything where you can just be, like I said, doesn't have to be painting, doesn't have to be, but if you're part of something like that,
Mhm.
you know, it's like a story, and it's something that you got to experience, and like, it's crazy and it's wild and it takes a lot of hard work, and it's ridiculous,
Mhm.
but it's all like, I mean, talk about like, just, I don't know. We're just like, I don't know. This kind of maybe goes full circle back to the Midwest thing, but like, you know, growing up around people who, you know, manual labor, or it's tough shit.
Mhm.
And, you know, we get to do this. Like, we get to do this. This is a privilege to be able to do this, to be able to do anything creative and make any money
Mhm.
off of it. Like, it is, I don't take that like I try to tell that to anybody who is like new or fresh, because you can kind of get burnout, I think, in the creative space,
Mhm.
which there are lots of reasons for that, and valid reasons to get burnout. I've had lows, like, for sure, just working too much, you know, being you know, kind of trying to get things done, trying to roll up your sleeves a little bit too much, and but just always remembering, just in the back of my mind, that like, you get to do this.
Mhm.
This is not like somebody would gladly take your space to be able to do what you get to do.
Right.
So
How do you balance that? So it sounds like you're self-aware, which I think is like step one, being self-aware.
Yeah.
And we had talked about this earlier, not here, but before we came down the basement here. So your wife is a partner with you. This is both of your agency, right?
Right.
So how do you, again, I'm just curious how you balance the work, because again, I'm sure being an owner is tough. This is your baby. You're thinking about it all the time. Your wife's also involved and probably thinking about it all the time. So I guess, how do you balance turning the work off?
Can you tell me how to do it?
No.
I have no clue.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
I'm lost, just as everybody else.
Okay.
I mean, clearly, like, I have no idea. In fact, I'm the wrong person to ask that question.
Well, yeah, we'll challenge you then. Maybe this will just be like, I'll be your accountability partner, and we'll walk in this together.
Sure. Peta would love this.
Yeah.
Stop talking about it right before we're falling asleep. Talking to me about logos. Which logo should I? It's like, shut up. So, yeah, no clue.
And I asked you selfishly because I'm not in the same line of work as you, but I do have those problems with work-life balance and blending, right? Having kids and the work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes. And
you sent this. I was thinking about it. I'm not a very balanced person. Like, and I'm not saying that balance is not, like, more balance is good.
Mm-hmm.
But I find that, like, at least my life, I'm not speaking for anybody else. The times where imbalance is necessary. Like, it's necessary when we have kids and they're babies and we have to stay up and it makes no sense and you don't know where you're at or what time it is and this feed and that feed, and that's imbalance. I don't know how you balance that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that life is like that. I think that's nice thought, and I try to find more balance for sure. But I'm saying, like, I think balance isn't the goal. And also, like, yeah, I need more balance with work for sure. But, you know, we have 3 kids under 5, 2. That's an imbalance.
Mm-hmm.
So we got these 2 imbalances, and they balance each other out. I think the only way to stay sane for me is to run and exercise. I think that's the only thing I can really do to get outside of myself.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also a believer in God, and I think that has a huge, I would not be able to do anything without that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, you know, I talk to God every day, just like, please, come on. I need you. I don't have this right now. And I don't have, whether it's like walking into a presentation or it's like, everything. I just could not do it without that relationship. And I think, no idea.
Well, I was feeling that the other day. I don't know. I was honestly just hoping for a nugget there that I could. But you did offer something up. Just seasons of life, I think, is one thing.
Yeah.
Especially with kids. I think the other thing too is it's okay to be uncomfortable. But it's when you say it, when somebody else says it to me, I'm like, yes, that's right. It's all right to be uncomfortable. It's all right to not have balance.
Yeah.
But then when we walk away from this conversation and 2 days from now go on, and then I find myself at like a completely unbalanced.
Yeah.
I just go back into myself. I'm like, but I need balance. But when you're saying it now, I'm like, yes, that's totally okay for there to be imbalance.
Right.
Logically speaking, there's going to be imbalance with 4 kids, soccer practice, work,
right,
all the things.
Totally.
And again, that's why I think it's just helpful for a community, being in a relationship with people to just, it's cathartic for sure to just sit here and just be like, yeah, man, you're in it. Me too. And that's it is what it is. You're like, yep, okay, I feel better about myself now. Somebody else is in it with me.
No one's got it together. First of all, it has nothing to do with kids. Everybody's got, everybody's got something.
Everybody's got something.
You know what I'm saying? Like, and it's so we all walk around like, yeah, I got it together. This person's doing this and that. And it's just like, yeah, I mean, if you could be in our house 24/7, anybody's house, you'd be like, all right, this is not, I don't want to follow this person. Like, what are they doing?
Yeah.
So
do you listen to, you'd mentioned before you talk with God all the time. I had a moment maybe 2 weeks ago where I don't do this as much as I should. Do I listen to like worship music or just Christian music?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
When I'm working, and I'll usually listen to not good music, right? Like,
oh yeah,
I'll listen to hip hop, I'll listen to rock, or listen to things, and part of it's I'm not listening to the lyrics, but then again I start thinking about it, I'm like, well, subconsciously what I'm taking in is then going to be a projection of how I'm feeling, and what I listen to. So I said, okay, I'll try switching it up. Like I've got a worship playlist from church songs that I really like. And man, I listened to it, and it was weird at first. It was weird for me because I'm like, no, I need to be listening to like, I don't know, Juice World or anything but this.
Yeah.
But I did find just a sense of peace in it, just calmness amongst the storm. I'm like doing something at work that's just a swirl. Yeah. And I was okay with it. I was just, he's got me. Like all that. Do you ever, in your stresses, either is it reaching for the Bible? Is it, music that you listen to? Like, how do you center yourself?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Is it a conversation? Conversation. Just
I think it's very like if people probably saw me, they'd be like, "This guy's nuts." Like, I'm definitely like talking out loud. Like, I mean, that is my base. Like Peta, my wife, is like loves worship music and is connected that way for a long time, and she's definitely got me on some of that stuff. I think music. I wish it would improve, like more genre, more. But there are definitely songs and things that I can pull back, and usually it's random. Like I don't have a playlist or anything. I'll be like, and it has that effect, that like calming kind of like, what? All right, we're centered now, or we're back on track. Music has like a crazy power. Like crazy. It's unreal. Good and bad. Like it can fire, like the best playlist can have you run for like 10 miles and, lift a ton of weight. And I mean, I played college football and the music was awful. I mean, people would just blare this like terrible rock, and it was so loud. And like, it was just like,
do you remember any of the band names? Because I was curious if I listened to those.
There was like some just butt rock, but just bad. I don't know. It's just like, I think it's a term my buddy made up.
Was it like 80s rock, or was it like early alternative? Like
no,
90s?
It's like, it was like there were some System of a Down songs that were pretty rocking, like that get you going.
Yeah, Chop Suey.
Chop Suey, for sure. But yeah. I mean, that you're going to lift a lot to that.
Yes, yeah.
But there's bad versions of whatever that genre. I guess I don't know what it would be called, where it's just like, I don't know what this is. This is just like sad and loud. And then on the other side, there'd be hip hop.
Or Atreyu or...
I can't.
There were some bands.
I kind of try to forget, I think.
So like System of a Down, that was like that. Was it early 90s, mid 90s? Or was it late 90s?
That would have been like, that was like high school for me. So it would have been like 03, 04, 05-ish.
I don't know why I'm going early 90s then.
Yeah. Well, it probably was based on something else. But yeah.
But that was, I remember that I love music. So you ever listen to something and you're in the car and it's very nostalgic and you just remember exactly where you were at a place and time in your life?
Oh, yeah.
Like, what is that? Diary of
Totally.
Summer? Or there was one band that Megan and I, Ataris.
Oh,
Remember
yeah.
the Ataris?
Yeah. What era was that? That would have been high school, right?
Yeah, it was high school.
Yeah.
But I remember the Atari song. I forget what the name of the song was. But I remember, like, man, I was 16. I just got my license. I'd had that Pioneer head unit in the '94 Camry because everybody had
Camry full circle.
yeah. I've never not driven a Toyota.
No way.
9 different Toyotas, never not driven one. First non-Toyota we bought was Megan's Suburban. We were in Dallas. I'd say that's one of the biggest mistakes.
Yeah.
It moves a lot of people, right?
Yeah.
But,
yeah.
So, back to the music. Yeah,
connecting to that season.
Yes.
It's like a good season. I love that.
Nostalgia of it.
You missed the Burn CD.
Oh yeah.
I feel like that was such a good era of like your music at that time was these 12 songs. And it might even just be, for me, I don't know about you, but for me, it's like summer, fall, winter, spring. Like it was seasonal. It wasn't like
you
a
would
month.
write it on the CD.
Yeah, it was like
summer.
Yeah,
2000.
I'd love to have that. Like somebody said, I think it was a meme that was like, "You think texting and driving is dangerous? Imagine remember the big book,
or the CD visor,
trying to get a CD out, flipping through while you're driving. Like which one? Which terrible? I mean, Blink-182. I think just
favorite band.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, love. Yeah. Talk about like just transcendent through like Gen X, every generation, millennial, just kills it. Like they're
coming to Lexington.
Oh, sweet.
They're doing a
nice.
Yeah, they're going back on tour. They're calling it. I don't know if it's like their one last time tour. That's what they're calling it. I don't know if it really will be. But there's a first concert I ever saw was at Riverbend was Blink-182.
No way.
Yeah, it was
That's
awesome.
A great show.
We were in the lawn. Of course, you just smell weed everywhere. Yeah, it was awful.
Couldn't see anything.
I don't think I can.
Skyline Chili Vision's little blurry. Like it's a little. We need to get those monitors updated. If you can hear me, MEMI.
There you go.
I know it's you. You need to update those boards.
They're worried about the flooding. But I just remember that when they came on, I forget who opened for them, and this was so cool. Just the word "fuck." It was on the back, and it lit up in flames, and everybody lost their mind. We're in the lawn. I'm there with one of my good friends, Randy Myers. Parents dropped us off something.
Yeah,
and we just saw that.
Yeah,
it's like let's go.
Yeah,
it was so cool,
dude.
Yes,
nobody gets me, but this F word on this.
Yeah, the times when you think you had it rough. I'm so misunderstood. It's like, are you though?
Yeah.
Like you're doing fine, dude.
Your mom's coming to pick you up. You're doing all right.
What are your words?
Yeah.
Really?
She's got popsicles for everybody in the car.
Got you carted around.
Yeah. Good times. That's a great show. Great show to see. First timer.
It was awesome.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. Went to the Taste of Chaos tour in Dayton. Okay. And that would have been My Chemical Romance and
The Used or something.
Used.
I knew it.
Yeah.
They always toured together.
Yeah. It wasn't my favorite. Like I wasn't my like genre, but it was the first time I ever crowd surfed. Oh, and that was fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was like probably the only time I've ever done it.
Did somebody lift you up or did you jump?
It was like it was a machine they had going. It must have been something they do every time.
A machine.
It was just like the people knew.
Oh, I thought you meant like
they let you up. Can you go? It's like a ride.
Yeah.
You could do it like 6 or 7 times. And
did you give people like your cell phone keys and wallet?
No.
That was a thing. You always had to like
Those bricks. I wasn't worried about that. Thing falls out your pocket.
your Nokia 8165.
Yeah, exactly.
I know the model number too.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Yeah, you go to the Florence Mall here and get a new faceplate from the vendor in the
It's a
middle.
sim.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Or that would have been minute cards.
Minute cards.
Oh, that was a day.
Yeah,
I love that.
sorry about a minute.
Yeah, I'm out minutes. We can't go on this date. We can't date.
Playing Snake on your phone.
We're done.
Yeah.
We're through. You don't have any more minutes.
I got a phone when I was in 7th grade, and I had no business getting a phone. One of my buddies, he was going to get a phone and from like Cincinnati Bell, and it was buy one get one.
Mm-hmm.
And my parents were like, "No, you're not going to get a phone." So I'm like, "Well, I have minutes. They won't know." So I got this phone. Nick Barber, thanks Nick. Him and his mom went and got this phone, so I got one too. The funny part is, and the what I joke with my 8-year-old son about now who wants a phone. It's like nobody else had a phone.
Oh yeah.
So they're like, "You're so cool. You have a phone. You got the
Opposite.
minutes." Who am I messaging? Not messaging my parents because they didn't want them to know I had a phone.
Right.
Not messaging anybody else because nobody else had a phone. So I'm sitting here now with this thing
Snake.
and playing Snake. Like maybe messaging Nick Barber because he's the one who got me the phone. We're like, we have phones. They're so cool.
How old were you?
I think it was maybe 9 years old.
9
or 10. That was
That's
the
really-
Nokia 8165. That was the model.
I had friends that didn't get phones in our era till like 16.
Yeah, I'm telling you, I had no business getting one. And then it ended up, I still having a Foot Locker at my parents' house. Because it has the neon lights, the battery had these neon lights on it, and I like tricked it out. And again, didn't talk to anybody. Changed the keys out on them. You could change the number pads out.
I want to go back.
Yeah.
I mean, they're doing that. They're selling Nokia 18, whatever it is, for, the dumb phone. It's $400.
Oh, yeah.
It doesn't do anything. You can't even turn it on. You just call. It's like, why is this $400? What are we paying for?
You're paying for simplicity now. We're going back.
Yeah,
in time
it is.
where
Well, it's like, I think that's good in some respect for sure. Like, I know I don't want to be on the phone as much as I am. I know everybody probably listening doesn't want to be on the phone as much as they are.
Except for this episode.
Except now we got you. We're part of it now. We're big phone.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, yeah. What do you think about your kids like in phone? You gonna get them? You gonna give them a phone? What do you think?
So we got Conan an Apple Watch for Christmas. And the reason we did that was because he has like anxiety when he's not around us.
Mm-hmm.
So we got him one, you go to Kings Island or if he's at school.
Mm-hmm.
Again, he just wears it and he doesn't wait. Nobody else. I mean, a couple of other friends have one, maybe a Gab watch or something like that. They can just call their parents. So as far as that, I'm completely comfortable because there's no access to the internet.
Right.
He can send some messages to me or his mom or make a phone call. As far as a phone, I don't even know. I don't know how to answer that.
Right.
Because it's already an issue at home with the tablets and the video games and the screen time. And he has an iPad. Like, what do you...
Right.
What more do you need? But then the access to the internet and YouTube. I mean, I think certain part of it's great. Like he'll educate me. I've watched a YouTube video on how it's made, or I don't know. Like he'll educate me on things, or like be on more of the cultural know than I am.
Right.
And I'm like, that's amazing. And then I sit and thinking about it, and I'm like, oh, is it? Like, you got access to all that?
Right.
So I don't know. I think maybe 14 or 15. I do think there'll come a time when the peer pressure will set in, and it's just like, am I going to be able to hold the line as a parent to not care that he's getting trolled because all his other friends have phones or not? I don't know. Because then I put myself in his shoes.
For sure.
And I'm like, well, I wouldn't want to be the kid who didn't have the Nikes.
Yeah.
Right. So I don't know yet. And that's the hard part of like navigating it for the first time.
Yeah.
No idea.
Hold the line.
What about you? What are you going to do?
We need to join up. That's what it is. You got to get everybody on board because it's the same thing. It's a group thing. It's like, oh, everybody, I point to you, you point to me. That person's not. So it's whatever your group is, I guess, like whatever the kids are doing. Because I agree. I mean, I think that was that way with like PlayStation and stuff like that, where it was like, man, what are we doing? Where are we? Where am I at? Russia? Was East Germany? Like, we need to get this PlayStation here, like now.
Let's go.
I am a loser. Like, you don't get this. Like, so you remember that.
Even though there wasn't even online at the time. Right?
Yeah.
So it's like you weren't talking with friends online.
It's just Grand Theft Auto.
Yeah.
You know,
You'd be talking about the next day at school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So
Then-
yeah, I don't know. That's I remember this from sociology class in college. I'm pretty sure that the professor was like, the obvious thing to think logically is like, no, don't give it to him.
Mm.
And his was the opposite. I think that was like it was interesting. I was like, I mean, not to say that that's right. I think it was just like, well, it depends on like where, what's around, what is around. And I think some of that is overblown. I think as a parent, hopefully, I mean, being a parent now, I'm like, yeah, in restaurants and you see people putting tablets in front of their kids and you're like, oh, how could I? You're not going to do that here. And then you realize you're like, oh, okay. Well, I need to do something. I need to eat this cheeseburger because I'm starving.
I will absolutely.
I'll just house it in 5 seconds. And then
we are those people.
Back. Yeah.
We were those people before kids that were just, you go out and you'd see people.
Yeah.
And you'd be like, oh, we'll never do that.
Right.
And to your point, how quickly you're willing to sacrifice it to be able to have 5 minutes to yourself.
Right.
To be able to eat some food.
Yeah.
It's survival.
It is.
Yeah.
No, for sure. And I mean, you do control it. You can control what you do and don't do. I don't want to make it sound like that, but it's like kind of like, yeah, but I also understand the other side.
Mm-hmm.
Planes, these spaces that, first of all, it is a zoo at a restaurant with kids. You cannot, I mean, it is just a nightmare.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why. I mean, breweries, that's the best thing about breweries.
Because you're open space.
Just free roaming.
Yeah. And you're having a drink.
Chickens out
So
there.
you're like, huh, I don't care.
Yeah, who would've thought-
Inhibitions are lowered. I've
who
got a
would've thought-
beer in me.
Get a preschool attached to one of those breweries.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
Not a bad.
Hey,
Not a bad.
anybody out
Somebody's
there?
gonna take that.
We're looking for seed investment
Yeah.
for a brewery.
Rheingeist or
I mean, you go out there anyway. I mean, that's basically what it is, a playground.
yeah.
50 West is just
50 West is
the
the
bananas.
best.
I love it. Oh,
Sand, volleyball courts,
Oh, it's great.
cornhole, pickleball,
Yeah.
all the things. It's fenced in. You don't have to worry.
wonderful.
Yeah.
Feels like you're in a different place. I also love that area of the city. So, what's an ad for 50 West?
Yeah, there you go. Last question, and I have so many. I think this one's interesting in your field, and then we can wrap. AI. Like, what do you think about AI as you think about your craft and in graphic design and in art? Or we'll take it you specifically in the agency. How do you feel about AI? Do you feel like you feel empowered by it? Like it's giving you new tools and resources also do your job? Do you feel scared by it because you think it could take away from things? Which I don't think that. I'm curious your perspective.
No, I don't. I'm not afraid of it. I mean, I think we have to be honest about it. We can't look at it like it doesn't cause harm or doesn't have the ability to do that. The people who are it's like everything now is so polar. We have got to be like conscious about what it can do, and it can do dangerous things. So I think the sober look at it is a little scary, but but for my field, I feel like, it pushes you to be the best that you can be. I always think of like John Henry for some reason. Is that the one where he's like driving the nail against the machine?
Yeah.
I think there is some truth to that of like technology's always been catching up and has always been on its way. I think it has arrived. I think it's for real and it's happening more than we even realize. But yeah, we use it and we cultivate our skill sets for it so that it can help, like you can do a lot with it. And I think sort of like the Adobe programs or any other breakthrough that allowed access, I think it's a good thing. I think more people having more access, being able to do things is a good thing. I think that promotes the field. Sure. I don't think that hurts. Like you still have to have the ideas, the timing, the instincts to be able to. I always use like in this case, I'd use like liquid death as an example.
I was talking about that the other day to my wife.
Yeah. So data's not going to tell you anything about that. That's just some human being having the idea to even do it. So in that case, I don't think that's going to be replicated. I don't think the predictability of what that that's so unpredictable, and we're so unpredictable as a species, and we have so many ways that we mess up that is like what makes us us. Like, and I think there's something special about that. There's something unique. You can't predict it. Like, I don't know. Yeah. I don't know if the AI is going to have like the shower moment where like it can be like, oh, that is what I should do. But in terms of like the day-to-day stuff, I think it's going to weed out a lot of low-level creative jobs. I think it will like take, the role of if you're like just knocking out, like you're knocking out certain designs all day long and it's the same thing and it's a process-driven thing. I think it'll replace that. I think, but for what my industry is so like, it's like timing, like I said, it's so much thought and energy, and it's like there's so many variables you're trying to play with, and like, is it the right time to do this idea? Is it, not to say that it couldn't come up with ideas or couldn't like do brand, it can do that. It can do that already. Just right now it's just not as good as what we can do.
Sure. You need all those inputs for it to be able to spit out something.
But it just listened to all of this. So now it knows. So
it's already smart.
So
like, we didn't know this before.
Thanks, Nick. It's like, I'm going to go home. My house is going to be locked.
Well, Liquid Death, that's funny. And this will be my last point. Yesterday, when I was thinking about the name, Turn This Off. And when I was talking about it, like I'd already done it, I'd already decided, already made the thing. Yeah. Whatever. Right. Wired all the handles, because those are clearly the first things you do when you start something. It's like, go out and grab all the social handles. And like I had the idea because, the reverse psychology of you want somebody to obviously listen. So whenever I am told not to do something, I usually do the opposite of that.
Right.
And I was giving an example to Megan and just like, oh yeah, like Liquid Death. You would never drink something that's called Liquid Death, because like if you take it very literally for what it is. Yeah. But then from a marketing standpoint, you're like, and I'm not saying this is a genius idea, but Liquid Death, in my opinion, I'm like, that's genius. Yeah. Because it gets you to pay attention. You're like, it's water. There's a skull on it. It's water. It says death. Right. Why would I drink this?
Why would water have a skull?
I want some.
Exactly.
Like,
exactly. And design, I think the design has dignified that. I don't think if it was like, I think you mentioned execution a while ago. I think the execution was good, and the delivery in the can is perfect, and like that's disruptive, and like, so I like the name that way. I think that is a good name because it makes you stop, and it is the opposite of what you should do. I think that stuff is awesome. I love that stuff. I mean, I am big into I love design. I love the execution of good design, but a good idea married with that is phenomenal. I mean, I think you kind of nailed it. So
I was going to ask you before we even started. I was going to, but hey man, what do you like from your perspective? What do you think? And you can be honest.
No, I like it. It's clear. No, I do. Okay. I really do. I really like the name. I like the clarity of it. Sometimes people overdo it with this. I think it's to the point. Like it really pops.
Oh, there we go. Well,
I'd make the logo a little bigger though. Yeah, that's what they tell us.
You should darken the yellow a little bit. It needs to pop.
Yeah, the kerning is great. You're letting. I don't even know how to say it. The design nerds will know.
Yeah, there you go. That one's for you. Dude, well, thanks so much. I know you gotta run, but we'll have to do this again. Yeah. Because selfishly, this was just a great conversation. Yeah. I hope somebody gets something out of it. If not, I did. So
for sure.
It works for me.
Yeah, dude. Thanks for having me. Yeah. This is, I'm glad you're doing this, dude. And I just want to encourage you to keep going, because I think we need more of this stuff. And and if you're out there, you keep going. Do it.
All right, man. Thanks so much. Cool.
You've been listening to Turn This Off. We love people, and we love talking to people to hear their stories, the journeys, the struggles, and the triumphs. From athletes to artists, from scientists to CEOs, anyone who brings something unique to the table. Who knows? Maybe you'll be our next guest. Thank you so much for listening. We hope you enjoyed it, and we hope you got something from it. We'll be back soon. But in the meantime, find us on Spotify, Apple Podcast, YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram at Turn This Off Podcast. And by the way, thanks for not turning it off. See you next time on Turn This Off.